another episode of Equity Mates on AusBiz. My name is Bryce, and as always, I am joined by my equity buddy Ren. How's it
I'm
going?
good, Bryce. Sharpest intros in the land, they say about you, and
They do say that. Thank you.
yeah, sharpest intros and sharpest mo.
Yeah, forgot about the mo. First time it's been mentioned, actually.
Yeah, I know,
so-
I know. I actually forgot to mention it last week. But look, we are joined by Julia Weng again. It's Watchlist Wednesday, our favourite time of the week, because we get to hear about 3 stocks on an expert's watchlist.
Absolutely, it's our pleasure to welcome back Julia from Paradise Investment Management. Julia, welcome.
Thank you.
So yesterday we spoke all things ESG. Today is all about 3 stocks on your watch list. Can't wait for this one. So let's kick it off with your first stock, and that is Qantas. The ASX ticker is QAN. Why is Qantas on your watch list?
Yeah, I mean, Qantas has certainly had its wings clipped over the last 18 months, and it's been a very turbulent period. But as we ramp up our vaccination rates, the flight path looks clearer than it has been. This is not just a reopening. What's interesting to us is the transformation that's happened at the industry and the company level over the last 18 months. So did you know that we spend $60 billion a year traveling, and that's just overseas? And after 18 months of not going anywhere, and I'm just keen to get out this 5 kilometer radius. But hopefully we are able to go to UK or US, in a few months' time. And I think there is a lot of pent up demand that is just being unleashed, that will be unleashed when finally the borders are open. So that's the first thing, that transition from goods to services. I mean, we've, had a lot of, spent a lot of money on screens or computers, but service is something and flying something that, is part of our Australian DNA. And over the last 18 months, it's been quite a transformative period for the industry as well, with Virgin now in private equity hands under Bain ownership. And I think that will propel a more rational market. And Qantas is taken share from 60 to something like 70% over this period in a rational duopoly structure. I think what that means is potentially higher a better capacity management and higher fares. Not necessarily great for us, but it's great for an airline which has got mostly fixed costs. The other thing is good balance sheet management over a very tough period. And also, Qantas been using, this period to, embark on a once in a lifetime restructure of costs. So it potentially can come out of this COVID era, hopefully, with high fares, more rational competitor, and also a structurally lower cost base. So that's something that's a stock that definitely worth watching.
Nice one. Yeah, Qantas is definitely a hot topic in the Equity Mates community. People that are, I guess, keen to travel are looking at that stock, hopefully, and they're putting a lot of their hopes in one day being able to get on a Qantas plane and seeing the Qantas stock rise with it. The next stock on your watch list is in a completely different industry, and that's Goodman Group with the ASX ticker GMG. So for people who are unfamiliar with the stock, what do Goodman do and why is it on your watch list?
Yeah, so Goodman is a leading developer of warehouses. And you think, oh, a shed in the middle of nowhere. But I think, warehouse have evolved a lot over the last few years. And COVID has accelerated the need for warehouses. And, people go, well, Goodman is it's a great defensive ballast to a portfolio that's almost you have great visibility over its growth trajectory for the next 2 3 years, irrespective what the macro does, irrespective of what COVID is doing. So Goodman, it's got few drivers driving that growth and visibility over the next 2 3 years. One is e-commerce. I mean, we all know that I've done a lot of online shopping, and COVID's accelerated e-commerce by something like 3 to 5 years. And what's also interesting is that the space you need in warehouse is about 3 times what you need in a shop. there's a multiply effect on warehousing space demand. And in this time where we're caught short by inventory a lot, there's a greater um, importance on resilience of inventory and stocks. So from the companies we're talking to, they're holding about 5 to 10% more inventory they used to. So again, that's driving warehouse demand. And third thing is location, location, location. So for a retailer and looking at their supply chain cost, rent only accounts for 5% of the supply chain cost, whereas transport accounts for almost 50%. And so in this time where, our demands for faster shipping are getting, we want things like literally the next hour. Proximity to households is really important. So, Goodman's now developing parcels of land it bought 5 years ago. You had the foresight to buy land that is close to customers and densely populated places. So in LA, for instance, where it's got a decent position, when customers are coming up to the end of its rents and signing up a new lease, they're seeing its rent go up by 10 to 15%. That pales that's very, very strong compared to the inflation and all other REIT asset classes. So, when we look at Goodman, it's leveraged to these positive trends in warehouses. It's also a capital light funds manager. So it deploys roughly 20% of the capital for warehouse itself, and 80% are through its capital partners. So it's a very light capital, high return on capital sort of business. And at the moment, you can see the uniqueness of that business through its very high development margins, which are over 30% compared to your most rate developers in, the 5 to 10% range. So Goodman, it might seem a little bit boring, but it is a great defensive ballast to having a portfolio.
It's certainly more than sheds in the middle of nowhere, that's for sure, as you explained it. So, to close out Watchlist Wednesday, another stock on your watch list, Julia, and that is Genex. Ticker is GNX. What's the company and why is it on your watch list?
Yeah, so GenX is a very interesting little company. It's about 250 mil market cap. 30% of Australia's electricity is still through renewables. So there's a lot more to go. And GenX plays into that space and also has really interesting economics. So GenX has two operating solar farms at the moment, but most of the value we see is coming from a pumped hydro plant in North Queensland, which will come online in 2024 to 25. So how it works with a pumped hydro, those new to the space, it works off an abandoned gold mine, which happens to be conveniently there, got an upper reservoir and a lower reservoir. And so during the day, there's also a solar farm co-located. So during the day, the solar farm generates electricity and that pumps water from the lower to the upper reservoir. And then during the peak times, you get like 6 to 8 hours of that day when electricity price is really high, the pump hydro releases water from the upper to the lower reservoir. And that's also act as a firming source or a battery, which you really need for renewables. And so the way they've structured this project is such that we can see double-digit IRRs, and it's a 30-year contract with Energy Australia. So you're not necessarily taking on that energy price, the fluctuations in energy price. And so when you compare that to a lot of listed infrastructure that's sort of in the low single-digit IRR, that makes a very attractive and attractive economics. The key risk on that is obviously development. If the project doesn't come online until 2024, 25, as I said. So that's something to be mindful of. But it's also apart from the solar and the pumped hydro plants, it's also got a pipeline of battery and wind projects. So it's a great little platform to watch.
Nice one, Julia. Well, three great stocks there. As a reminder, Qantas, QAN, Goodman Group, GMG, and Genex, GNX, to add to the watch list for the Equity Mates community. So thank you for your time again. Very much looking forward to tomorrow closing out our week with you. where we're going to have a look at what is to come in 2022, some of the thematics and how you might be positioning your portfolio accordingly. But as always, thank you for your time today, and we look forward to catching up tomorrow.
Thanks.
And that brings us to the end of today's Watchlist Wednesday. A reminder, we had Qantas, Goodman and Genex. And look, we've got Julia tomorrow to close out our week with her to chat all things 2022 Ren.
Can't wait.